This is the Digital Savage Experience Podcast, hosted by Prokopchuk, bringing you all things digital marketing, tech, business, and motivation. What's stopping you from becoming relentless in all aspects of life? Are you ready to become a digital savage? Let's get into today's episode.
Hey everyone, this is Prokopchuk, and this is the Digital Savage Experience Podcast. Today I have with me Noa Ronen. Noa is a speaker, leadership and business certified coach, author, disruptor, and coffee lover. Noa brings more than 20 years of experience in change management, human resources, project management, and coaching. Noa is the author of the book Beyond Leadership, From AwareLess to AwareNess. Dare to be the leader you can be. Thank you for joining me today.
Thank you for having me, Roman. I appreciate that.
My pleasure. So tell me a little bit about your journey. How did you get to where you are today?
So I will start with probably the question that shows up the moment I open my mouth, especially when I live here in the US, and that's where I'm from. So originally I'm from Israel. My husband and I moved a job opportunity for my husband about 14 years ago, and we started in New York City, Brooklyn. And before the move, I started my journey actually in the army, because in Israel you have to go to the army. So I started there in training, and my path was training, change management, and human resources inside organizations and corporates and outside. And then with two little kids, we decided to move on a 3 years adventure of relocation, not even immigration or something like that. And I thought it would be very easy. I had executive experience, an MBA, the big city. And then as they say, reality strikes, and no real opportunity as I expect came on my way. And I was lost, as I say, in the woods of Brooklyn for, I can admit it was about 5 years of being lost. And suddenly, from being a person that leads people change, I was lost in my own change. And I did almost every mistake possible that now gives me the tool to help other people go through obstacles. So in that space of being lost and not finding anything important, I started blogging. And blogging then 14 years ago was kind of like podcasting today. And from that, actually the creativity, and I think it also happens right now, we are in this COVID-19 coronavirus space. In that being lost, that creativity of wanting to write for many years, people start connecting with me, and then people asked me to start coaching them. And it was weird because it was different people reaching out to me at the same week, asking me to coach them. And I knew consulting, I knew training, I knew human resources. Actually, I thought coaching is kind of like a scam, but I became curious, and I decided to get trained as a coach and get certified. And I became really hooked with coaching and start coaching people. I started very simple with people around me, and now I'm back to work with corporate people. And 6 years ago, we moved again from New York City to North Carolina. So now I'm in North Carolina, totally different experience. And what was funny is that when I started coaching, people started asking me and telling me, "You're very inspiring. Where can we hear you speaking?" And I said, "Come on, English is my second language." But I never had a problem of speaking in front of people. What was really my challenge and what made me feel lost for so many years with the move was that English was my second language. And it played in my head a big part. And but that encouragement brought me to start speaking, and now I'm a keynote speaker. And I start speaking, people ask me, so where is the book? So now I also have the book. So that's kind of like the story that brought me to where I am today. And I think that when people hear me speaking about overcoming obstacles or leadership, underneath there is that unconscious, the story that I'm not talking about, which, or at least the message I'm not about, which is, if she was able to do that with her second language, I can do it with my first, in a way. So that's kind of like, I hope it wasn't too long, but that was the path of the last 14 years.
Yeah, that's awesome. And I think people, like you said, even with just being native English speakers, still kind of have a fear of sharing or speaking, even though, they may have a story to share. I think everyone has, their own expertise and can share something and add value. But, I think there's a study out that people were surveyed that they're afraid of public speaking more than they would be of dying. So it's just one of those things where I think there are a lot of people with a lot of, stories to share and insights to add, but they can't get over that kind of initial hurdle. And, me being an immigrant, I came to the US when I was 5. So, I naturally kind of lost an accent because I learned that language, in kindergarten and primary school. So my brain got, wired that way. But I know a lot of people that immigrate to the US or just come here in terms of work visas or different situations, that they are self-conscious and, in the back of their mind think, what people are thinking of them in terms of their accent, that kind of stuff. So that's oftentimes a hurdle to, to undertake that.
It's a huge hurdle. Some of the people I work are expatriates, and they can be people. One of my clients was a general manager in France, and he came here, and it's like, I can't do it again. And it's that walking with them, step by step and saying, hey, I did that, you can do it too. And he's working right now in a great position. So it doesn't matter where you come from, where you started. And no matter how many native English speakers will, English is amazing, it's not relevant to the person that live in their second language. Because for me, speaking was always my forte. Since talking about life journey, I knew in the playground that I was a leader. I knew that my forte was when I was speaking to a group of people, I have the ability to inspire or influence them. I knew that when I was a soldier in the army with the officers. I knew that when I sat in the boarding room when I was 24, change management consultant, sitting with CEOs and VPs, and never had the fear of the title. I knew that I opened my mouth and I do my thing, and people mostly follow my ideas, not always, but they listen. And suddenly there was this new thing of people saying pardon and excuse me, and I felt that I became handicapped in a way, because I've been taken the thing that was my strength. So I was, and that's the real thing that I'm helping people right now, is that I am taking them through that hurdle of that internal voice telling them you are not able to do that because that was that place that was in my way. I can't speak because it's my second language. I can't be a coach because it's my second language. So, yeah.
Yeah, and that's the biggest barrier or hurdle in terms of reaching something, achieving something, or doing, something new is yourself. So getting out of your own head and kind of taking that path to uncertainty, because obviously human beings love being kind of comfortable and set in a routine. And when you get taken out of it, you get uncomfortable. But within that kind of uncomfortable, state, that's when kind of the growth happens.
Yes. And in my book, I really, the book, From AwareLess to AwareNess, but in the middle, there is the AwareNess. And we see that a lot right now, right? Like when I ask people, when, all the things you were thinking or about you never have done because you had to perfect them, or all the things that you were trying to avoid, suddenly in today's situation where we all feel somewhat of survival, right? Suddenly we are willing to get messy. And that was the part for me, I think, with the blogging, that it was the first time I was willing to get messy and be creative. And from that creativity, I started creating connections with other people. And but the first step before you're willing to do that and experiment and become messy is that part that you isolate yourself. You kind of like put yourself aside. You don't connect with people. You try to figure it out, but on your own, with your own messiness, until you're willing to move to that experimentation part. I hope it makes sense.
Yeah, it makes sense. And I agree with that. So what motivates you to succeed?
That's a good question. I think for me, it changed, when I, in my 20s, it was to be on, at the top in a way. Today, my motivation is to see others inspired, to see, I say that some people are in the gray color. And for me to see a person that is able to look at their situation from a perspective, that motivates me. And what happens in the process of working with many people is that I realized that many times, and I think that was my space too, is that the problem is not really in the problem when we're stuck. The problem is in our solution. We are stuck with the solution, not with the problem. And I will try to explain that, because it's kind of like a thing that I start seeing as a pattern. So many times we say, this is my problem, and we approach that from that space. But when I start talking with people, and it can be on stage, and it can be one-on-one or with groups, you realize that they are stuck with solution. So for example, I can be a good manager like that lead the team before me. He was a great communicator and I'm not. And that's why we don't move into action or taking any action, because this is how we see the solution. And the same thing with not moving into taking action, because I believe that there is a specific solution that can solve that problem, and then I don't take any action. So for me, coming to people and say, hey, is there a third solution to the problem? So if you feel like you only influence in the meeting room, is that always how you influenced, or that's the only way you can? And apparently they realized that mostly they influence in one-on-ones. So why are you focusing on the big room? You're better on influencing and making it shift and impact when you're doing the one-on-ones. So when we are stuck with that one solution, we don't move, because we are in a self-limiting belief that this is the only way to solve the problem.
Yeah, I agree. And obviously, people can reach the same destination and overcome something. Or if you obviously have a group setting and you bring people together, have kind of different mindsets, each of them may have a solution that's different, but it doesn't mean it's wrong. It still gets you to kind of the same destination.
Yeah, and that's why we enjoy so much working with other people, right? Because we do get stuck on how we see things and about our perspective. And suddenly when we sit with other people in the room, we can hear other perspectives we haven't thought about. And that's why I really like the mastermind, process of sitting with other people, because I feel like people always get stuck in their head with one perspective. And then when you sit with other people, it's the same, right? With podcasting, suddenly you hear a different voice and say, I haven't thought about it this way. How about I approach it from that path rather than focusing on that specific path that gets me nowhere?
Yeah, I agree. And humans are obviously kind of social beings, so we kind of need interaction also. And like you said, I think the best way to kind of refine an idea is get locked in a room with, X amount of people, 10 people, this is my idea, this is my direction. And I think in an hour or two, you're going to get a lot further than you would have by yourself, maybe weeks, months, or even years in terms of concept.
Yeah. And it's interesting because when we go through many times, we have the tendency, when we go through change, we have the tendency to isolate ourselves. But then we realize it's really hard to do it alone. So that's when creativity will show up, or our connection, just reaching out to other people and asking for help. And we all experience the social isolation right now. We all realize how much of social people we are and how much we need the connection with other people. It brings a sense of joy to what we do.
Yeah, I agree. So what's one thing you may have seen as a weakness in yourself in the past that you've turned around and utilized as a strength today?
So I think the being different. Every time I open my mouth, I don't look different in a way. We don't have the video today, but I don't look different when you look at me. But the moment I open my mouth, I'm different. And it brought a lot of self-limiting beliefs. And I feel like this is part of why I do this work and why I wrote the book, is that whenever I open my mouth, I ask myself what the other person is thinking about me. What are their thoughts about me because I sound different, and how does it impact what I do? So I try to fight that being different. And then I realized that many people actually, they enjoy that I have the different perspective, that I have the different voice. And actually what I realized, now when I look back, I can tell you it wasn't that English is my second language, that I was able to, express myself in my first language better than in English. That was the reason that people were listening to me. It was my message, or the way I am connecting with people as a human being, that people want to listen to my ideas. And going through, understanding that it's not about how I say the things, but how I connect with people and my ideas, that people want to listen to me. And that's where I shifted the perspective about being different and made it part of my brand, made it part of, as I say, I embraced the being different rather than it. And I believe many times when you stop fighting something and find peace with it is when you grow, when you take that leap. But that's being different.
Yeah, I agree. And I think, like you mentioned, I think it's important to your personal brand. If you have a business, your business in general, that's what makes you unique, whether it be, an accent, things you went through, things you may not, want to share, or things that are still kind of like dwelling with you. All of that kind of makes who you are. And all of that is part of the story that defines you. So I think it's kind of important to, I guess, come to terms with it in a way, and, don't be afraid of it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I say you probably cannot let go of fear. Fear stopped me for a long time from doing things. And it was really weird for me because I was such an act person, and the move to the US stopped me from actions. I was pretty much in the frozen part in my life. My emotions and my thoughts, or as I call it, my being, the emotions and thoughts, I see them as the being part, were taking over, and I didn't see any actions. And I believe many times when we don't see actions, or we sit all day, we don't see results, is because we just do without being part. And my fear was so strong that I just couldn't take on actions, or even when I took actions, they didn't show any results. So today, what I believe that we can't really, my perspective then was that I will wait for my fear to disappear but it didn't. I had to learn how to work and walk with the fear while being afraid. I couldn't let go of the fear. I had to do all the time, things while being afraid. So at least this is for me the distinction that, what you said about we need to stop being afraid. So it's hard. So for me, at least it's hard. So I had to learn how to work with my fear and keep walking slowly while being afraid. And then the fear gets smaller and smaller. But at least as business owners, and I think it also happens when you are in leadership positions, is that every time you think that's it, I fears there is a new thing you want to accomplish, and new fear shows up. So it's kind of like a never-ending story.
Yeah, and I think, someone's always going to be afraid of something. So I think it's important to kind of harness it, know it's there, but don't let it kind of define you or hinder you or like stop you in your tracks.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, first you need to, that's why I call the AwareLess part, is first you need to understand what is that thing that stops you, what is that thing that keeps you in the inconsistency, in that, that you don't see consistent results, or that you are not able to move. So that's probably the first step.
I agree. So what's one piece of advice you may have for the audience, personal or professional?
So I think I'm going to talk about just understanding that we all, I'm going to, just stay with the theme that we are talking right now to keep it relevant. So if you hear the voices, they're saying to you that you can't. If you hear the voice that's telling you that suddenly, how come, kind of like that voice of how we're able to do something before and I'm not able to do it now. Mostly it comes in times of change. It's okay. We all have those voices. So first you need to identify what is that voice is telling you, because we all have that, and it's probably your inner critique or gremlin or saboteur, which comes from the word sabotage. So identify that voice and what it tells you, and understand that you cannot get rid of that voice. Kind of like you cannot get rid of not, of having moments of being sad or having moments of being afraid. Those are things that we cannot rid of, but we can learn how to lower the volume. So learning how to lower the volume of your emotions or your self-limiting thoughts, or that mean voice that tells you that you can, or to lower the volume of the fear. This is the work I believe that we need to learn to do. And remember that even when we learn to do that, when we are in moments of stress and distraction, we will go back to old behaviors. We will go back to what we did. So I call it the illusion of awareness, that we believe we learn how to be on the other side of the road and be that other person. But we don't understand how come that we went back to old behaviors. So please understand that when we are distracted and stressed, we go to old behaviors, and that's fine. That's okay. So just learn how to lower the volume again and go back to where you want to be. So those are my 2 cents, the illusion of awareness, and we always go back. So that's okay. Just teach yourself how to lower the volume.
Yeah, I agree. And I think, like you said, I think people regress oftentimes when they're put under pressure or kind of a stressful situation. And I think it's important to kind of understand it and develop self-awareness. Obviously, as you get older and the experiences that you go through, you become self-aware, or hopefully you become self-aware. And I think kind of self-awareness is key in that process.
Yeah, and I wish there was more conversation about that, because there is a lot of conversation about being in the other side, but when people get to the other side and then they have that going back, they get upset with themselves. How come I'm not able to stay there? How come I'm not able to stick into and I think this is the missing piece that people don't understand. So don't give up when you did that amazing work to get to the other side of the bridge, because we all do that. So it's kind of like if you practice meditation, right? We go in and out of that breathing and focusing on the breathing and then going out of that. That's okay. So it's the same with becoming better with what is that you're trying to work on. And I wish there was more conversation about, hey, you learn that, but there will be moments that you will go back to old behaviors, and don't give up. Just learn how to close that gap and make it faster that you go to the other side of the road. So I hope if you hear me and you feel sometimes frustrated with yourself, please don't. We all do that.
Yeah, I agree. So I really appreciate you stopping by today. Can you let the audience know how they can find you?
Sure. So my website, it's Noa, my first name, it's Noa, no age there. So Noa Ronen, Ronen coaching.com. So that's my website. I am on most of social media with the same handle name, Noa R Coach. So NOAR Coach. Mostly you can see more of me on LinkedIn, and my book on Amazon, Beyond Leadership from AwareLess to AwareNess. Please buy the book.
Awesome. Thanks again for stopping by.
Thank you, Roman. I appreciate the conversation.
Hey, this is Roman Prokopchuk of the Digital Savage Experience podcast. Like this show and want to make your own? Let me tell you about Anchor. It's free. There's creation tools that allow you to record and edit your podcast right from your phone or computer. Now you can even add any song from Spotify directly to episodes. The possibilities are endless for what you can create, whether it's music analysis, your own radio show, or something the world's never heard before. Anchor will distribute your podcast for you so it can be heard on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and many more. You can make money from your podcast with no minimum listenership. It's everything you need to make a podcast in one place. Download the free Anchor app or go to anchor.fm to get started.
This podcast has been brought to you by Nova Zora Digital. Find out how Nova Zora Digital can help your company grow online. Learn more at novazoradigital.com. Until next time, all you digital savages.